I am Vili Bracha to life and to blessings. Life begins right here, or enhanced life is right here. Hmm. All right, there we go. All right. We're alive, therefore alive. Sometimes that's what happens is, we think we're alive. You look in the mirror, oh, I'm alive. Or, you give yourself a pinch, you feel that you're alive. We're live on social media, so I'm alive. Uh, we're learning something, so we're alive. Now, you know, perhaps there's some truth to that, but the deeper truth is uh, life is within us, and God places life within us. And our choice is to be able to see that we have the power from within to access the um, eternal, holy life, sanctified life that we have that is really our true identity. And that's so. Just briefly to tell you a story of my grandson, 11-year-old boy, went into a store with his parents, but he was looking in one place for some pants. They were in another section, and five um, very kind of whatever 18-year-old they looked like. Uh, they were Muslim, and they are kind of go confront him and with a snicker, "Free Palestine!" And he just looked them in the face. 11-year-old boy, 18-year-old. He's kind of short for his age, probably too. They're definitely much taller. And there's a few of them. There's five of them with their headgear and everything. They were fully garbed. And he just stares them down. And they went away. So when we connect with the inner life that we have from within us, we're truly alive. You can stare down evil. They just, what is an 18-year-old, five of them starting up with an 11-year-old? As they say, pick on someone of your own size. But of course not. You want to intimidate. You want to be whatever. But what was beautiful about my grandson is he was so secure in who he is, recognizing the inner life that he has, that he just looked at them, not with any, like, just stared them down, and they went away. They're, of course, insecure in who they are. Of course, they are whatever. Um, but they're not alive. That was The Walking Dead, right? How do they want to get life? They want to take it from someone, right? You want to grab from someone. So you're gonna intimidate a 11-year-old to try to get some life for yourself because you got no life. That's really what's happening there. Yeah, yeah. All right. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin today, chapter 42, which is, of course, a continuation of chapter 41. So, in the light of everything that we've learned, and the subject is what we call the lower level of fear. What is a lower level of fear? It means the presence of God, that you then act differently, you behave differently. Just like when someone is present in the room, you act differently than when no one else is present, right? So when God is present in our lives, we will act differently as a result. Just to tie in with the story I just said, I didn't even think of this. For my grandson, God was present, and therefore he was able, in their eyes, God's not present because they weren't trying to gain from their inner, you know, create an image of God as they are, to take that image and to live with that. No, they wanted to gain vitality by trying to take it, trying to abuse somebody because they have no inner vitality. The Walking Dead, right? So this is, wow, ties in so beautifully. I didn't think of that at the. So with this, then we can clearly understand a comment in the Talmud that says as follows. It's a verse in Devarim, in Deuteronomy. It says, um, Israel, ma Hashem Elokecha shalom imach. And now, Israel, Jewish people, what does the Lord your God want from you? Kim lira is Hashem Elokecha. All he wants is that you should fear him. That's all he wants. You should fear him, right? That's what the verse says. So the Talmud on this says, really? Fear of God? Is that such a simple thing? Right? It was simple for the 11-year-old, but not for the 18-year-olds, right? And for 80-year-olds, maybe it's not so simple. Was it so simple, the fear of God? That's what the Talmud asks. The Talmud responds and says, yes, for Moses, it's simple. So Alter Rebbe asks on this piece of the Talmud, it doesn't seem to make sense. They're asking about every Jew. Is it a simple thing for a regular Jew to fear God? And what's the answer? Yeah, for Moses, it's easy. We're not talking about Moses. We're talking about me. Make it personal, right? Talking about me. So the Alter Rebbe concludes, therefore, what do we see about this is that every single Jewish soul has a piece of Moses in them. Wow. Right? We have a quality of Moses, our teacher. Why do we have a quality of him? The truth is, there are 7 shepherds of the Jewish people: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, uh, Joseph, Yosef, Moshe, Aaron, King David. We have the 7 shepherds within us. And the all-encompassing shepherd, the greatest of all of them, is, of course, Moses. So we have a piece of the shepherds, and him in particular, in us. What do? Causes the vitality and godliness to flow into the Jewish souls. That's what they call shepherds, because what does a shepherd do? Feeds the flock. So what does Moses do? He feeds the flock of the Jewish people. It's being a shepherd, right? Being a shepherd, he's shepherding the people by feeding them, right? What's he feeding them? Vitality and godliness, right? What kind of vitality and godliness? That we should know, because his quality is das, awareness, connection. Just Avraham, he feeds kindness. Yitzchak, Gavura, discernment, strength. Yaakov, compassion, and so on. I'm not going to go through all of it now. Moshe gives das. To be, what does that mean? That God should be self-evident. That's what he's giving us. That God should be self-evident, his presence, that we should experience it. And each person will do that according to their capacity, right? Of the Moses in them that they are able to access. And through that, we are bound up in one with God. As God, he is the knower, the knowledge, and the known is one. So the knowledge of God is being bound up with God. Okay. So that's what the Moses gives us. Powerful. In addition, says Yalter Rebbe, that there's a Moses in every generation. That they come down into this world, the leader of that generation, the Moses of the generation, they come into this world, again, to feed the people, feed them awareness of God, the presence of God. That God is self-evident, that we can experience in our soul divine connection. So the leaders of the generation, they are the eyes of the generation. They're the ones who give us an eye that we could see and perceive godliness. They impart that to us, the greatness of God, so we can serve God with a full heart and soul in accordance of our awareness and knowledge of God. Now, when Mashiach comes, we won't need to have the teacher teach us anymore because it'll be self-evident, God's presence. But right now, it's not self-evident, God's presence. We need a teacher. By the way, even though I'm your teacher of Tanya, here I mean a Rebbe, right? Not me. Just to make sure that that's clear, right? We need the Alter Rebbe. We need our Rebbe in our generation, right? Because through their teachings, that's what the Alter Rebbe is doing with us right now. Through his teachings, right? He's giving us awareness of how real God is. Right? Not just to, it's not about just knowing, because das is something, as it says in the verse, Adam knew Eve, yada, the word knowledge, it's from the word knowledge, he knew, means they had relations, meaning deep, intimate connection. So das is an awareness of a deep connection to God. That's something we need to think about, meditate upon, contemplate in order to get there. That even though we see a physical world before us, really, what the Moses of the generation is giving to us is that God's presence is very real. That's very powerful. That God is self-evident. And that's what gives my grandson rather, sons and daughters too, but my grandson, not because he's was aware of it um, intellectually, right? But he was attuned to it, because of his soul has that, and therefore he could stare down evil, right? If God wasn't present in his soul, he wouldn't be able to do it. 5 guys that are bigger than you, they were at least a head taller than him, if not more. But it's powerful. Now, here we're talking about having an awareness of this. Yeah, I think it was more soul level than it was um, mindfulness. Here we're talking about mindfulness, right? And that you're thinking it. You are create. Um, God is self-evident because of your contemplation, meditation of it, of that reality, right? Or here, like, yeah, very powerful. Any questions? Any comments?
Is the ultimate aim is to have that in terms of Akma, Bina, and that? What is the ultimate aim? To know more Akma than that?
Well, you can only have das after you go through the process of Chacham and Bina, right? Of of having the point and then fleshing out the point and developing it and understanding it well, and then but then it remains just a piece of information in your head. Das means you connect with it, that it becomes an evident truth for you. You not just a truth intellectually, but emotively. That therefore it feeds the emotions. It feeds the emotions, right? That there's something experiential, that it feeds the emotions. In the case of my grandson, not that he thought it was more, or that it feeds you, that you feel the strength from within.
So in other words, it helps you to live, you know, to make the right choices, to live a particular way.
Yeah.
After having
You'll behave differently.
right, yeah.
Just again, by the simple metaphor, right? If I'm sitting in the room all alone and someone walks in, all of a sudden, like, I'm gonna sit up, like they did the psychological tests simply on 10-year-old boys sitting in a classroom, an all boys classroom, right? And a 12-year-old girl walks in, the boys like sit up and they tighten their tie, and why they do that? It was instinctual because someone who they wanted to impress walked in. Right? Someone you don't want to impress, you don't care for, so maybe you act the same, or maybe you'll act even worse, right? Someone you dislike walks in, so maybe you'll even, right? But someone that you're impressed with, like God Almighty, right? Right. The Rebbe walks into the room. You're you're gonna sit up, and you're gonna be more paying attention, right? Um, that's the idea. God is present. So for us to get there, we have the Moses in us that gives us that capacity, right? That's based on the Talmud that we learned, right? That's at the beginning of the class we learned. And the Alter Rebbe concludes, based on the teaching of the Talmud, that we have a piece of Moses in us that gives us the capacity of das. In addition to that, there's a Moses in every generation who teaches it to us. As the Alter Rebbe is teaching it to us, as the Rebbe teaches it to us, right? But with the teachings, we need now to personalize it. We need to, you know, we need to think about it. Can't just, a piece of information. If it's just a piece of information, well, we live in a world. We live in the age of information. But the problem is we don't live in the age of connection. This is the age of being disconnected, right? There's more disconnect today than ever before, and that expresses itself in teen suicide like never before. Where's that come from? Complete disconnect. So das is a connection that God is present, He's real, He's self-evident to such a degree that we experience it on some level, that we sense it we sense it. We're not perceiving it with our eye, right? But with that, we need the Moses in me, and I need the Moses from without, the leader of the generation, the Rebbe, who gives us through his teachings, by the way, not just his teachings. Here it says, that the Moses of every generation has a spark of Moses in them. So Chassidim say, we never tire at looking at the Rebbe. You know why? Because in the Rebbe is a spark of Moses, a holy person. So we don't tire by looking at the Rebbe, physically looking at him. That is inspiring us to have a greater sense of presence of God. That inspires us, which is quite phenomenal when you think about it. And it's true. That's why I encourage everybody to watch videos of the Rebbe. Not only for the learning that you gain from it, of course, but you're looking at the Rebbe, a spark of Moses that's in him that is truly revealed. We have the spark of Moses. We also have a piece of Moses in us. But how much are we revealing it? How much are we living it? How much are we manifesting? Exactly. The Rebbe does. The Rebbe of every generation does. So watch a video, not only to learn from the Rebbe's teachings, but to gaze at the Rebbe. Which is powerful. I'll tell you the story with my grandson. I really, like, it just came to me. I had no thought of telling it. But as I'm speaking about alive, dead, walking dead, right? And it has to come from within, it's from without. What a perfect story it was. But like, they're trying to get life by depleting life from someone else, right? Because they have no life. They're lifeless.
And today is supposed to be a day of rage as well.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what apropos. Isn't it fear of being separated from God? Yes. If God is present, uh, you know, if if you go out with your spouse or you go out with a friend, let's say you go out with a friend, your dear friend, right? You go out and you act as if they're not there. What does that mean? Give me one word for that. Disconnect. Disconnect. That's what it is. So you're with God. Fear means, right? Fear of disconnect. He's present. I don't want to disconnect from that. That's what fear means. Love means the desire to connect. But you imagine you're going with your best friend and you're having time and you're acting as if the person's not there. Whoa, is that ever a disconnect? Yeah, and disrespectful. Disrespect is what you're showing to that person. Disconnect is where you're at. What's with you? Like, hey, what's the matter with me? How am I so disconnected? I mean, I'm acting as if the person's not here, right? So the whatchamacallit, the the fact that it is, you know, dishonorable, that's the effect of it. But the disconnect is me. Such lack of an awareness. I'm here with my best friend. I'm not even talking to him. I'm like gazing out the window and daydreaming, right? So if out of the love, I want to connect, but out of the fear, I don't want to disconnect. I don't want to be disconnected, right? Both things. But here we're talking about the disconnect, right? So the awareness of God that He's present and self-evident is what we're talking about, and therefore not disconnecting. What does that mean? Acting differently. Again, the boys got up and they acted differently because someone's present that they want to impress. Well, God's present. Hey, Patricia, thank you. What's the Rebbe, the Moshe of our generation? Avada, most definitely. That is still. Jeff, how does the previous chapter about meditating on the hour of God's greatness relate to the chapter? God's present. That's the whole point. God is self-evident. He's present. So when you think about him and you meditate upon him, right? The difference is when you have your best friend there in the room, and he's right there. You see him, right? So it's easy. You're much easier, shall we say, right? But God, therefore, you have to meditate. You have to think about it, because otherwise, this won't come about so simply and easily. Yep, correct, Patricia. Hef, didn't see. Or Jeff, you mean? Yeah, dealt with his. What can we do to help to remind them God is always in the room so we can connect? Exactly what we're doing right now, learning Tanya and thinking about it. Think about it during the day. I think that's part of it is that it's not a piece of information. I think that's what's very important, folks. To live with this, not just, for your information. No, this is not for your information. This is for life to live with. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. This is what we're learning. I don't think we have another way. You know, can't tie a red ribbon around our hand and oh, I just looked at it. Oh, God's in the room. Okay, then 2 minutes later, God's not. And don't get down on yourself that if we act as if God's not in present, just know that it's not your true self. It's not really what you choose to be. We just had a failing, but the failing doesn't define me. Sometimes I feel well to what Jeff is saying, acknowledging God's presence in everything I do. Not sure that this is a question, but rather a comment. It's hard to be perfect and impossible, actually. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, it's not about being perfect here, folks. That's what I just, saying is that don't get down on yourself. Trying to be perfect, trying to be perfect, that's your Yetzer Hara, by the way. Some people have such a Yetzer Hara because they need to be perfect. God needs you to be perfect. God needs you to be better. God needs you to be perfect. God needs you to be better. Today's a better day than yesterday. Perfect? No.
Because you're always a work in progress.
Yeah. So, which then the fact that you feel that I blew this, I blew that, and yeah, that's an animal soul talk that needs to feel perfect, not to be perfect, but to feel perfect. Uh-huh. Okay, Chaya, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Join us again. How to help a depressed person who is disconnecting from Hashem and can't see the divine spark in themselves? Yeah, you know what? I want to Chaya. I'm going to read what she just wrote. She says, "I have to leave. Happy to stumble across the lecture, profound lecture." Um, so she stumbled across it. Thank God. So, folks, help someone else stumble across it. Share with them. Share with them, you know, that come and join. And let's double the amount of people that are here today in the next couple of weeks. Because this is definitely game changer. All right. Amazing. Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Gedeshim, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing day. Join us for Rambam now.